In Club Thrive, visioning is an important part of the process. So what we're going to do in this lesson is just give you a framework in which to start to vision the future you want to experience for yourself, the goals that you want to achieve, the future that one of the ways I look at it is like, like right now, me today, this was set up by a vision from the past, right? Whatever my experience is of my life today, my body, my home, how much money I have, my assets, my relationships, my core experiences, my intelligence, my wisdom, my purpose, and my moment-by-moment presence, right? All of this is a result of the past. So I can thank my past self, or I can investigate my past self and say, like, where was I, like, right on target and where not so much? And then what can I do today to vision the future I want to experience next? And then what we'll do when we get to strategy is really put your vision into a plan through digesting your critical issues. So the visioning part of the process is in the very beginning, and I'm going to just walk you through the experience and how to know yourself. We're going to come back to this sheet in a moment after I bring you through a few slides. Okay, so Mastering Leadership by Anderson and Adams. They say the first purpose of life is to be a person of vision, the essential act of all great leaders. As we do this, we come face to face with our need for wholeness and confront that which limits us from offering our contribution. Thus, the second purpose of life is to overcome the obstacles that block us, many of which are within our own structure of beliefs. Our task in life is to keep a polar tension between a vision of the unique meaning that is striving for expression in our lives and to remain honest about the unintegrated side of ourselves that are incapable of living out the vision. To combine these two purposes, to serve and to heal, is to become a great leader. So this visioning, this is all about, like, where are you orienting toward next? And we want to put the what before the how. I have found time and again in coaching people, and potentially in myself too, is it's a tendency to put the how before the what. I would say Carol Dweck, who wrote a book, Mindset, would say that's part of fixed mindset, is you only stay in your competence of what you already know how to do. And that's fixed. That means that your future can't be greater than your past because it's reliant on that which is fixed. Whereas growth mindset, this is saying that, like, actually you can learn how to do things, right? You're not done yet. No matter what age you are, you're not done yet. So what is it that you really want? And we're going to put the what before the how. We're going to see our next purpose. We're going to align towards our next vision by sensing what our next purpose really is. So dream it, believe it, to achieve it. Hippocrates said healing is a matter of time, but it is sometimes also a matter of opportunity. And I would say the same is true with visioning. Visioning is a matter of time, but it is sometimes also a matter of opportunity. It's usually always a matter of opportunity. And if we don't take time to do it, what happens is we just get stuck in the whirlwind. We just get stuck in repeating the habits of the past, reinforcing a personality that is reinforced by those habits, and fulfilling a purpose we've actually already achieved. And so this idea that your future should be greater than your past, this is what we're going to tune into in visioning. There's a series of 4 questions from Deepak Chopra to get us started. And what I recommend doing is, in a Google Doc, is to have a new Google Doc. And I use Google Drive because I can access it from anywhere. I would start a folder called Club Thrive, and I would put a doc in there called Vision Doc. And what I would do is answer these questions, and I would stew on them, because by the time we get to Core 5, this is where you're going to use strategy for action. Now, the 4 questions are: who am I? What do I want? What is my purpose? And what am I grateful for? Now, you can also ask these questions before sleep, before meditation, before strategic thinking sessions. Now, in doing this for who you want to become next, you can say, who am I becoming? What do I want next? What is my next purpose? And what am I grateful for now? The reason we're going to adjust these questions for that is these are general enlightenment questions. These questions will shift your consciousness into a larger perspective. By orienting towards the future, who am I becoming next? You can really sense, like, who do I want to become next? And it opens you into both a massive spaciousness, and then if you can take that spaciousness of possibility and bring it into specifics. Who do I specifically want to become next? What do I specifically want next? What specifically is my next purpose? And what specifically am I grateful for? And the more you can refine that gratitude, that shows you where your past self set up your present self for success. And that can really help motivate you in the future. Robert Brault said, we're kept from our goal not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal. And this, again, is reinforcing that whirlwind. It's reinforcing that our current personality is based on habits that are habituated from a past purpose. So what we want is a clear path to a greater goal. And that's really what we're going to do in the work of strategy. For now, the work is to become really much more clear on what you want. James Clear says you should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results. So what does that mean? Well, the trajectory that you're on that got you here, is that what's going to get you to where you want to go? And so much of why we're in Club Thrive is to say, you know what? It's pretty amazing to be with a group of people who's on a growth path. It's pretty amazing to be with a group of people who are reinforcing circadian rhythm habits, that are reinforcing restoring microbiome, that are reinforcing that my life should be oriented towards meaning, that my life should be oriented towards depth. And this is what creates this dynamic potential. So anything that's coming up as you ask these questions of yourself, you can also ask the question of, like, what am I not comfortable with in terms of my current trajectory? Now, some of that might be, again, back to earth element, back to body. Some of that might be around your body. Like if your sleep isn't going well, like maybe you're up from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. If you have weight creep, if you have, just these emotions, like you maybe find yourself becoming increasingly irritable or short with people or frustrated. So what we want to see is, like, what are some of the trajectories that we're on? And you might find some of you want to draw pictures, like draw a picture of, like, this is some of the trajectories that I'm on in light of my home. Maybe my home's increasingly messy, or my desk my computer increasingly has more files and folders that are disorganized. All the examples I've used, weight creep, sleep issues, digital chaos, those are all personal. Those are all part of my past personal trajectories I've been on. And what we found in this process is it's so super helpful to pause and to see, what is it that you really want? What is your next purpose? Because then what we can do strategically is redesign your habits to create a personality that moves that purpose into action. Carl Jung said the world will be saved by individuals who have a strong sense of their inner world and live from a commitment to live from a place where they're holding the opposites. And this is a lot of what we're going to get into in Growth Path and Depth Path. So you'll continually update your visioning doc with what is really going on in terms of your inner world and the commitments and some of these polarities, some of these paradoxes that are living from the place of opposites. For example, for me, like, I've been quite ambitious in terms of my career, in terms of my desire for impact, positive global impact. And at the same time, the opposite of that is I've wanted a very, quiet monk life, meditative type of life. And what you'll find in this process as we go into Growth Path and Depth Path is that there's certain things that are in that paradox. There's also certain things that are not in alignment right now. And I want you to get clear on that as part of this visioning process, because that which is not in alignment, that which is on a trajectory that you're concerned about, right, that you're like, that's not going in the right direction, is really important. For example, so much of my work has focused on inflammation and what chronic inflammation is costing us as a global culture and what it's costing us each individually. And to take an assessment of, like, what is the cost of inflammation? I'm going to show you, in terms of liminal thinking, these two really different experiences. So our experiences, again, are based on our habits. Our habits shape our personality, and our habits and our personality are what actually create the radar towards what is our next purpose. They're actually I would say the ground of our ability to discriminate. So I have like a Lego guy that's eating fast food on the left, and on the right I have someone living primal habits. Now, their experiences of what they know of reality are entirely different, including what they know of you could say, of subtle body anatomy, of even how they might experience a deathbed perspective or an ability to look at the present moment from a place of clarity. So much of our habits are really determining what our experience is, but are also determining how we can direct our attention. So what I'm going to talk about next is what is rhythm, and what is routine, and what is ritual that allows you to have the clearest vision of the future you want to create next. Because if your vision isn't clear for the future you want to create next, and you're in Legoland, where you're in a place where the cost of chronic inflammation is creating a trajectory that you're uncomfortable with, and maybe that means that you don't even know who you are, or what you want, or what's working or what's not working, these habits that we're going to get into, that we're doing in primal habits, that we'll do in the process of visioning, are super helpful for you to gain clarity. So the primal habits themselves will actually point us towards the experience that we want to have next. All right, so Rumi says, yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself. Again, who am I becoming? What do I want next? What is my next purpose? What am I grateful for now? Another way of looking at it is what needs to die on the altar, especially on the habit altar. Like what is currently okay, that does not work for my future. I know enough. And we'll look at this much more closely in terms of the depth journey, because it's in the depth journey that integrity comes up. When we don't get in alignment with integrity, what happens is we limit our future experience from habits that lead to chronic inflammation. That leads to a future that's smaller and more limited and more painful. So as we start to see a greater potential for ourselves, a more lofty vision for ourselves, we want to ask ourselves these lofty questions of, what do I really want? What is my next purpose? Like in the loftiest sort of way, like what is my purpose? And what are these reoccurring patterns? And we'll look at reoccurring patterns a lot more in depth journey. We'll look at your strengths to leverage much more in your growth journey. So there's certain habits that help you experience the loftiness. And one of them is walking. So walking in alignment, walking with eyes on the horizon, walking with eyes like way out towards the future, jaw relaxed, ribs are lifted, the corset muscles that go around your abdomen, those are drawing in and up slightly, about 30%. Your arms are swinging opposite your legs. You're stepping from your hip, not from your knee. You're rolling off your toes, pushing off the ground. This is all in Uninflamed in the chapter called, Walk, Crawl, Run. I believe it's Walk, Crawl, Run. Here's Crawl. Crawl is like getting more in the primal movements. This is amazing for opening energy down into your root chakra, into your hips, just crawling like a baby, crawling like a bear, like an alligator, like a gorilla, like a crab, moving through these motions forward, backward, sideways, in circles. This is what starts to awaken primal energy. Breathing deeply through your lungs. You want to breathe in the possibility. You want to actually utilize your physiology, the turbines of the breath, which aerate your brain, start to awaken your third eye, awaken that ability to vision into the future. And if you get stuck in the how will I get from A to B? Don't worry, we're doing that in strategy. You don't have to worry about that right now. We're going to do all these lessons when we get to strategy. We're going to figure out exactly how you're going to get there. We're going to do a bunch of complex stuff. So you set yourself up in terms of mindset, people set, tool set, and skill set for the future that you want to live. But right now, you just get to really dream big. One of the ways to dream big is to experience this pulsation, this contracting in, to expand out. And doing this through fasting is really good. Doing this through spending time in your healing space, it starts to awaken the different ways that you know. We have a gross physical body, we have a subtle dream body, and we have a deep energetic causal body that you access in deep sleep. So part of visioning is that we want to access all of these bodies. We want to awaken the pulsation. We want to awaken the subtle body anatomy. And in order to do that, fasting is the first principle of medicine. Fast and see the strength of the spirit reveal itself. That's what Rumi said. Again, fasting is the first principle of medicine. Fast and see the strength of the spirit reveal itself. Rumi also said fasting blinds the body in order to open the eyes of your soul. This is so important if you're sensing desire. Deep desire awakens hunger. So when we fast, what happens is in many ways, we take all the energy that's normally happening in the digestive channel and we switch that off and we switch on the nerve channel. In the nerve channel, this is where that energy of pulsation between your root chakra and your crown chakra, this starts to wake up and you experience on a much lighter level your possibility and potentiality. You're much less weighed down by the heaviness of your past habits. It's really an important part of visioning. You want to take a deathbed perspective and look back on yourself right now and see like, wow, okay, I have some choices to make. What is the future I want to experience next? Who do I want to become? What is my purpose to fulfill in this next phase of my life? How do I orient towards meaning? How do I orient towards integrity? How do I orient towards depth? And in this process, we experience the growth of depth and the growth, depth, pulsation, and that awakens the inner body. What might happen is that you start to feel like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And what will come up in light of your goal is that there will be challenges that come up. And that's fine. That's totally fine. We don't have to solve for those challenges right now, but we want you to know exactly what is your desired outcome. A healing space, a place for you to be. I like a yoga mat. This is a flying yoga mat. I don't have a flying yoga mat quite yet, but any yoga mat kind of feels like it when you dive in deep into the subtle body and in meditation. And what you're able to do in that healing mat, in that space, is to sit and to be and to reflect and to become. And that it's so important to take some time to do this. All right, so back to like our Google Doc on this. So why do we do visioning? We do it to come home to yourself. The yogis have a word for this. It's called svastha. And this svastha is the idea of sva is self, is to be seated in yourself, to know yourself. And you're prioritizing your insight versus outward reflection. You're orienting towards your own depth. You're orienting towards what you know to be true for you versus what asking a friend or someone else might say about you. In the process, what will happen of asking those 4 questions, who am I, what do I want, what's my next purpose, what am I grateful for, is you're going to receive insight, intuition, inspiration, creativity. And to me, this is like the coolest part, is these meaningful coincidences, the synchronicities. What the yogis in many cultures have called grace, right? Where you'll see like you'll have a visioning session and then someone will say like, you should listen to this, and you'll listen to it and you'll be like, oh my gosh, that was exactly the missing piece I was looking for. Or you'll run into someone who is an old friend who's actually completely aligned with this vision you have for yourself. So that's a natural part of why we vision, is we actually tune in, and in the tuning in, it generates an energy, it generates synchronicity. Why we vision is to be true to our dharma. So again, in the four aims of life as codified in the system of yoga, we have artha, like do you have enough stuff? Kama, like you live in the good life. Dharma, right? Orient towards meaning. And what does that lead to? Moksha, which is freedom. So orienting towards meaning, your meaningful life, like what is your purpose in this next phase of your life? And I've seen some people like go super grandiose on this in a way that's not effective. Like if you're a mom with 3 kids at home who need you to feed them and bathe them and all the things, like you might want to aim true to that duty, to that part of your calling. So it doesn't have to be something that I find people get really ungrounded when it's like really well beyond the stratosphere of reality. And don't worry, we'll catch it if it is in the strategy core. But for now, just think of like actually aim true to your duties and responsibilities in this life and arising in your life right now. Another reason we vision is to befriend ourselves and observe nature, because we are nature. So we start to really respect who we are. We start to respect our physiology. We respect our constitution. And we'll get into that in the heal section around your unique constitution. And we'll go deeper into visioning as we explore more constitution. Another reason we do visioning is to uproot the bullshit rules, aka brules. That's a term from Vishen Lakiani of Mind Valley. This idea that, sometimes we have goals, we've had set goals for ourselves that aren't ours at all, like really at all. And I used to do this all the time where I wanted to impress other people. So I'd set goals that were impressive to other people. And it created so much stress in my reality. So we want you to find what are the bullshit goals? What are the bullshit rules you might have been living by? I've seen so many people stay in jobs they don't like, stay in relationships they don't like, because there's some bullshit rule that you're not supposed to quit, or you're not supposed to be a quitter, whatever, right? Like, this is your life. So what we want you to do is to come home to your truth right now. Why, too, is to dissolve doubt, to dissolve inflammation, to reverse a lack of direction or drive or momentum and put you back in the driver's seat of your life. Another reason we vision is to discover reoccurring themes, like I mentioned. We'll do that more in depth work, and we'll look at strengths to leverage, strengths to develop, both in growth work, but also in strategy. All right, a few more questions for your Google Doc of visioning. Where do I want to arrive? With whom? Doing what? Who am I becoming next? Does it all check out? Like when you do a body check and you read your visioning doc and you're just looking for is this really true? Is this really true for me? Or is this like my mother's truth for me, or my father's truth for me, or some ancestral pattern or some cultural pattern? Like, does it all really check out? It's your life, right? I mean, this is all about you. And I want you to go deep into the vision of who you want to become next. All right, so again, on the how, this is just review. You're going to start the Google Doc. Schedule a time, a location. Do intermittent fasting before. I'll often use like a 5-day fast mimicking diet, which we covered in intermittent fasting, and we'll cover a lot more as we go into primal habits. And you'll learn how to naturally do that as a community in Club Thrive. We do these quarterly. It's a really good time to come back here into visioning, because you'll be hungry, and that hunger provides that inner body clarity. As you ask the questions, let them go. You might find you do a visioning session for an hour or two, and then you call in a higher level of truth, a synchronicity, a coincidence, and then you need to go back and update that Google Doc, because things will come in that give you more insight. We also do this through different life stages. Like if you're in a life stage transition, we trust our evolutionary biology. We trust our evolutionary psychology. So it's really good if you want to do this. Like for instance, I do visioning with my family. I do visioning with my child. So we schedule visioning, particularly in Club Thrive. We'll be doing it on a quarterly or trimester basis. We'll also, on the last trimester of the year, we'll be doing it for the whole annual cycle. We trust also in our evolutionary biology and psychology. So the more you're in a change of life, whether you're, whether you've just had a baby or you're going to have a baby, whether you're in menopause or maybe you're going into retirement, like these changes and stages of life, maybe you're moving, career change, location change, those are really important times to just like pause, time out, do some fasting, do some walking, clear the energy body, do breathing practice, do a visioning session. And that will enable you to really awaken your psychology for what's happening in your life and to optimize that. So some of the primal habits, again, fasting's huge, breathing or doing the exhale practice. For those who are into urine therapy, and we'll get more into this in primal habits, this reestablishes svastha. It's a way of upcycling your ultraplasma filtrate. So urine is filtered out of your blood and you're upcycling the essence of yourself. For many people, it's super advanced habit. I don't recommend it unless you're already fasting and doing yoga and detoxing and healing. Cryotherapy is amazing. Trip, these are all chapters all of these are primal habit chapters in Uninflamed, where I go into deep explanation. Trip can be a meditation retreat. It can also be using psychedelics intentionally in order to vision your future, doing it with asking a question in order to receive a universal response. Cryo, swishing, sipping, microbiome, these are all habits we're going to get into more as we go into primal habits. For now, if you're curious, you're just like, I want to know more about these habits, or I'm going to design a visioning session, then pick some of these habits to really focus that visioning session around. It might just be fasting, doing an exhale practice, taking a cold shower, and sipping hot water. Maybe crawling around on the floor a little bit, just to open the energy body, open energy into your hips and your shoulders, so you can be much more in your body, in, present, ready to vision your future. Okay, these are a ton of resources down here. There's a lot of book recommendations, including specific chapters in Bodythrive and in Master of You. Also, there's articles in here that I've linked to, just particularly those who want to start doing breathing practices before a visioning session. This Ujjayi Pranayam is super helpful. There's also a chapter in Bodythrive on breath body practices. It's really helpful to do breathing practices before you do a visioning session. All right, so again, where to start right now is schedule yourself. Just schedule like a good 2-hour visioning session. Schedule your intermittent fasting times a couple days before then, and on the visioning session day, ask the questions and let them go. Oh, lastly, I wanted to show you what this is like. So if we take something, So if we take something like Club Thrive, well, Club Thrive came out of a visioning session, and it came out of this dynamic tension where I was uncomfortable with how I was sort of at this phase of like, I felt this sense of like a whole next purpose, a whole next way of organizing a community, but everything that was in motion was really well entrenched and in motion. And so I started to do some visioning sessions again, like Hippocrates says, healing is a matter of time, but also a matter of opportunity. So is visioning. So I started to just put a lot more time into the visioning. And I imagined a club that had the right vibe, where members were all in, where you wanted to belong. And I started to just like put together these on paper, like these ideas of these different clubhouses. I started to look at like, oh wow, what if we had like a gold room and a healing oasis and a men's club, and what if we had an intermittent fasting lunchroom? I just was dreaming and writing things down. And first I thought Club Thrive would have, you can see there's a bunch of stuff here that got edited out or changed, and I was trying to figure it out. And it became something, right? It became Club Thrive. It had a logo, and then we developed a logo. It took us like 20 iterations to get the logo right. It took us, oh my gosh, it took us at least 40 days to get the name right. Like hard work for 40 days to get the name right of Club Thrive. In a lot of the processes that we're going to go through strategy in the strategy section, we went through. I modeled the way. And then it was funny because when we were done, then this article came out. A club with a 60,000 women waitlist, Chief, a $1.1 billion startup, is creating support groups for women in the workplace. Only executives need apply. And this reinforced that club. That club indeed was exactly what we wanted to do. And you can see over here, I also at the same time invented Wellness Pro Academy with a club version and a pro version. So none of these things existed before the visioning sessions. It's important to realize that like every cool thing that you kind of see made by humans around you, that this all came out of visioning, right? The first purpose of life is to be a person of vision, the essential act of all great leaders. As we do this, we come face to face with our need for wholeness and confront that which limits us from offering our contribution. Thus, the second purpose of life is to overcome the obstacles that block us, many of which are within our own structure of beliefs. Our task in life is to keep a polar tension between a vision of the unique meaning that is striving for expression in our lives and remain honest about the unintegrated side of ourselves that are incapable of living out the vision. To combine these two purposes, to serve and to heal, is to be a leader. So that's what it's time to do, is to orient your vision towards your next purpose.